Hello, how are you? This is the second video I'm recording about perception and change of reality, and the name of this video is The Development. You can watch the first one that I've already put online, and it will help you understand this second one. To begin with, in this video, so you can not only understand the information I'm going to give you, and so you can start, you have to first take the first step, the step I talked to you about in the first video. It's about unlearning. It's not a matter of learning new things or of trying to find similarities. That's only adding knowledge. And knowledge in the line of life within the room takes us to experience. Experience is belief. If you have not understood this, you will understand it as you watch my videos. I'm talking about perception. There are two ways of viewing everything, viewing reality. I prefer to say a view. One is from reality, from within reality, within the room itself, and it's sustained by our belief system. That is, our belief system is the script of the theater play. So from that language, we are observing, viewing reality. The past, the present, and the future develops from here, always based on the same belief system. Knowledge is within the belief system. What I'm trying to show you is the second way of viewing, which is perception, consciousness. In order to have this perception, you have to get rid of knowledge. This doesn't mean that you have to be dumb and stupid and ignorant. On the contrary, you have to view reality from a different way. You have to see things from a wider perspective. So all the knowledge becomes one. And this is what I'm going to show you about change of reality. You need to want to do it. You need to be willing to abandon yourself, giving into this perception. Otherwise, none of what I'm going to say will resonate with you. You will notice that you start having similar thoughts that want to tell you that you already know that, or thoughts that will make you think that you understand it, but they are contrary to what I'm saying. You cannot understand this through your brain, physical brain, but you can get it through the physical brain by getting rid of knowledge, getting rid of that point of reference that you have, so you can let this new information get through. Okay, I'm going to start talking about what I call the development. It's consciousness, the consciousness about where we come from, where are we going. Those are the big questions. Before anything else, I would like to reflect on something that makes a difference between change of reality and every other method you may have heard of before. I say reflection because if you already had this integrated, you would not be watching this video. It doesn't mean you're going to learn anything that you're ignorant at all. No, it's not none of that. It means that I am going to show you an important detail that makes the difference of why the perception of change of reality is different and what it has to do with everything else that you already know. But if you knew, you wouldn't be watching this. That's clear. This first issue or detail has to do with science. Science, I repeat, is something that reads reality. It's knowledge. It's part of the theater play. It is within the belief system, within the script. Science is one script of the play within the belief system. So this sounds impossible to us, sounds outside of what we're used to, because science for us is the maximum authority. And science is discovering new things every day. So we're always waiting for science to keep advancing in order to feel that we know, that we have new knowledge, as if science could reach to what I'm going to talk about, to perception. If we take as a fact that science is a belief system, that it will never be able to reach perception because it's knowledge. The language of science is mathematics. So mathematics only function, only work within the play. We think mathematics are everywhere. Yes, they are. Everywhere within the play. But there is something else. And that something else has nothing to do with math. Doesn't understand the language of math and the language of science and other disciplines. That only stays within the room. This is the big revelation. Anything outside of the room cannot be perceived or measured by science or measured. A physicist that studies quantum mechanics, quantum physics, will never be able to reach to where I'm going to try to get to. He can get there as a physicist. But if he wants to get to perception, the perception I'm talking about, he or she would have to undo, unlearn, like everybody else. Because physics is not useful for that. It can be a clue, but it doesn't help to understand. This is very important. So we can develop this. Math, theory, science, it's all within the play. They're all beliefs within the play. Whether they're true or false, well, no, they are true. They're true within the play, but they're not the truth. If we follow the path of science and what science tells us, we will reach other truths, but truths within the play. They're simply moving from one act of the play to another act, one scene to another scene. What science discovers is believed by the collective science, or the other way around. What the collective mind is prepared to understand, science gives it to them. Science discovers it. Both things happen at the same time. Although we need time, we need a before and after. It's as if science said that, so we developed this experience. But in truth, in reality, it happens at once, at the same time. So what does this mean? It means that everything that we can understand along our life as a species, as humans, it's within the play. Just the play develops, it gets longer and longer, larger and larger. All the possibilities are there. So other acts, other sceneries appear. So we can realize the things that we begin to understand. If you don't understand this now, you will understand it as I talk about the development. Once you understand it, it clicks. Everything will be logical. Everything will be like an aha moment. If not, it's that you're holding on to a past ideology. Everything has to fall. It's like a domino effect. You tip the first and everything will fall down. Dimensions that science is discovering are other scenes of the play. It's a great example for me. I can explain everything based on a theater play. So now with physics, with the technology, we know everything. We know so much. We are a projection of something that we're going to see now. So the more we know, the larger the room gets. And for example, now we are quote unquote prepared not to understand but to hear about the non-time. We know that in the theater play there are 3 times, past, present, and future, and those 3 times do not exist for consciousness. Outside of the play, there's no time. And I repeat, we don't understand it. People talk about it, but we don't understand it. But it's important. Okay. What is this all about? The more we try to understand this and to talk about this, whether superficially or deeply, the more physics is trying to study, go through that path, the more proof the field is going to give the play to continue. And new dimensions will develop. We will find out new dimensions in which we will experience the no time. But it's just another scene, another act. It's another earthly experience, no matter how mystical it may seem. It's an earthly experience. I repeat, everything done within the play has numbers, has laws, has parameters, and the language, the parameters we use are mathematics. Outside of this perception, numbers are the same, 1 or 7, it doesn't matter. Math are not important, that's knowledge, but within the play. They are useful to realize ourselves within the play, to act here, but that's not the way out. It just takes you through other paths, wonderful paths. But the perception of change of reality is for finders, not for those who want to continue doing research. I said that already in the first video. Well, now I'm going to talk about the development of what I call a primary consciousness until it gets to us. Terminology is important because I need to use it, and there's the only way I can express this information. And the people that are interested in it should never get lost in terminology and get stuck with words. I just need to use words because that's the only way I can express it. I'm going to reduce it the best I can. Everything that I'm talking about truly has no form, has no number, no shape, no size, no color. So I'm making a big effort to transmit this. So I would ask you, whoever is listening, you also try to make an effort to understand me so we can communicate, because this cannot be understood through the physical brain. Okay? So I'll talk about forms, shapes, things, so we have the language to communicate, but not because it's like this, the way I say it. Well, let's imagine that everything, absolutely everything we know and that we don't know, us, others, everything is condensed in a dot or a point. This point really doesn't exist because forms or shapes do not exist. It would be more accurate to say that this is action, movement. Everything that is contained in this point, if it contains anything, cannot be measured. Please don't mix things up. Here, there are not atoms or particles or anything. There is nothing. It's action. It's force. I call it vital force. It's also being called essence or uh, the source. I like to use the source, but I like to say now the vital force because it has life. So it's a point or a dot here because I have to use words. I might be able to transmit this telepathically if I tried it mind to mind, but so far I haven't tried, I cannot do it. So let's think that everything is contained in this point and it has strength in just one direction, is unidirectional. There is no north or south, east or west. When I mean it's in one direction, I don't mean it goes in one direction to another that we can envision. But we come from that force. We bring it here. And when we bring this force here is when we make it bi-directional. That's when we start talking about good and evil, or north and south. The concept of the play we are representing here could have been something else, but the one that we have now is a concept, and the concept is good and evil. So we, with this strength or force, we create everything in opposites. We never think there is just one thing. We always think there are two, one opposing the other. Everything is pro or con. This would be perception. When we perceive, we see just one thing. When we don't perceive, we see two things. That is knowledge. We always see something and its opposite. In order to define something, we always do it by defining the opposite. Now, look at this picture here. Here you can see there is a blue blot. In order to define this blue blot, there has to be something that is not a blue blot. Otherwise, I could not define it. So there are always two things, something and its opposite. Everything is dual in our universe, in our reality. So let's go back. Here is the vital force. Everything is here. As I've said before in another video, everything is together here with in one direction, one strength, one force. Everything is possible and it's movement. It's action. Okay? So let's imagine this is an ocean. And all of a sudden there is a wave. I'd like you to pay attention to this wave. It would be part of that vital force that comes out. It doesn't really come out, but we have to use words. So let's say that comes out and it comes out of that vital force in order to experience something, in order to experience any possibility that force allows. This is important because from the moment that piece, to use a word, that piece of vital force comes out, that piece or that point, as I call it, is conscious of itself. It's a part of the vital force that is aware, that is vital force, while it could be doing something else. This is very important. If it were not self-conscious, it couldn't be doing that. The wave could continue to be a wave because it's aware, it's conscious that it's a wave. If it were not, it would go back to the origin. So this consciousness, I call it primary conscious, just to have a reference, although here there are no numbers. There is nothing here. There are no several consciousness, 1, 2, 3, no. It's all one. It's all one consciousness, a vital force that moves together. as one experience. And this experience, in order to be realized, has to be in a state, a specific state. And this state can be called space. We have to imagine it. If I want to play with a ball, I need a space. Let's say that that space is like a theme park. Like a child is in a theme park and wants to play everything. He wants to try and experience everything. Well, that's what happens to consciousness. So let's go back to us. Consciousness suddenly wants to experience a physical universe. What does this mean? This means that it wants to experience a belief that can be touched, that can be smelled, that can be measured, that has parameters. Because it might want to experience something else, and in fact it does. We or science, we cannot reach those desires, intentions that consciousness wants to experience. We will never be able to do that by measuring. And after you watch all my videos, if you come back here, you'll realize what I'm saying. It's impossible to come back here with numbers, with the parameters that have brought us into the play and are defining the play. That's the mistake of all disciplines or of all the tools and methods when we talk about numbers. It's perfect to achieve things within the play, of course it is, but it's numbers. We talk about 7 chakras, 11 dimensions, number 3, they're numbers. That's the decoration for the scenes where the characters can act and bring here a reality that could be a new age, a new role in the play for anybody that wants to act in it. But that's not it. Numbers don't exist here. The numbers are in the play. We cannot get up here or perceive from up here with the parameters that we're using to define the play. It's like wanting to represent something. Say, I don't want to be an actor in the play anymore, but I don't want to take off my clothes here. I don't want to be naked here. I need my acting clothes, So as long as we keep those clothes on, we will keep being actors. We will depend on knowledge. I know that all this sounds very strange because it's totally contrary to what we have seen until now, what we see in the play. For the play to continue to develop, we need to continue to define it with its numbers and science and philosophy. So let's focus now on consciousness, on that part of consciousness that is vital force, a vital force that wants to experience a physical belief. That state in which the vital force is, I'd like you to pay attention here, is what we call quantum field. Now, I'd like to make a digression now. This is important. It has a lot to do with what I'm saying. I cannot go on without making a point now. When we talk about quantum field, we're talking about something related to physics. It's something measurable. I'd like you to make an effort here that consciousness is here, is in a theme park in which it can do anything it wants because it has realized that it is action and can do anything. So that state or space that consciousness needs, quote unquote, in order to develop the physical universe is what we call quantum field. But that's not the only state of consciousness or space. There are other spaces for consciousness to develop other things. Therefore, this goes back to the same. It brings us back to the same. It's all too simple. Very, very easy. The more science tries to investigate and do research about quantum fields, the more we keep going round and around, because the quantum field is the play, is the theme park, is the space where all possibilities can happen. Force, unidirectional force exists there. It's our space, it's the space where we can develop everything. If we need 20,000 dimensions to develop what we call the human evolution, I say it's a supposed evolution, because according to perception, there is no evolution. According to knowledge, yes, there is evolution. So we need 20,000 dimensions. The field will give them to it, because time and space are illusory concepts. We need them to develop the play, but we are not taking up any space, or we don't need any time. We can get as much, we just ask the field for it, and the field gives it to us. So we think we're evolving, we think we're getting to the essence, and all we're doing is to play in this theme park, going round and around, developing the play. The field is going to give us everything. This is very important. If you have not understood it, you can cut here and watch it all over again. Consciousness is in a virtual space, because that space doesn't really exist. But consciousness is there, and it can do anything it wants. If consciousness decides to do an action, any action, from its perception, from the moment consciousness wants to experience something physical, that space that gives it the possibility to develop that becomes the quantum field, not the other one. Everything else does not, but this one does, because it's the useful one. It's going to be useful to fit there everything we can imagine, everything we discover, everything we can tell, everything we can measure. All we wish, all we suspect, all the mysteries, the other galaxies are there. From the tiniest thing to the biggest thing is in that quantum field. So that quantum field is the area of action for our play. At this moment, those people who can understand what I'm saying are probably in awe, because this really destroys all the paradigms we have. If you understand this, or even you suspect that this could be true, we'll have a domino effect in your beliefs. You tip the first one and all the others will fall, one after another. The more you understand, and as you watch these videos. Of course, you can continue to live as a human being, and actually life will probably be better. Because you understand, you realize that we are here in a very dense reality, and you will have a lighter life. You don't have to do anything, which is what I'm trying to do. You don't have to do anything. Let's go back to consciousness when it wants to experiment the physical universe. Okay, now listen to this. This consciousness is in this area in which it can develop a physical universe. But what happens here? I just said consciousness is action. Consciousness is not one or two or three things. You cannot measure it. It's not even action, but it's the only way I can explain it. It's movement, it's force, it is action. So consciousness wants to stop to identify itself with what it has wished for, which is a physical universe. So consciousness wants to stop and watch that universe. It's as if I'm walking by and I see a mirror all of a sudden. If I don't stop, I cannot see myself, my own reflection in the mirror. So I'm making an effort to stop, to look at myself in the mirror. Consciousness does the same thing. The action of consciousness which is inherent to it, cannot stop. But at the same time, consciousness is consciousness, 100%, and wants to look at itself, observe itself. It's in that, do I stop, I look, or do I stop, or I keep moving? It is in that state where the other consciousness is formed, or the other action, because it's a different one, conscious of itself also. So this self-aware consciousness or action would be the identity, the moment of wish in which consciousness wanted to look at itself in a mirror and identifies itself with that moment. But that consciousness is nothing but the result of that struggle, that dilemma. It's a struggle between, should I stop to identify myself or should I keep going? Consciousness cannot stop though, because it's action. This can give us clues also to understand. Then our physical universe, what I call the room, the play, is the result of that move or movement, of that action, of that wanting to identify itself. It's not a still or a stagnant identity. It's a constantly evolving identity. It is the desire to stop to look at itself in the mirror. And human consciousness appears there. What I mean is the physical consciousness, what we call soul. We call from the old schools, religious, spiritual schools call it soul. You can call it mind, subconscious. That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter how we call it. It's a subconscious mind. I want to comment this because these are words that are used often. It's the same. It's a collective consciousness. Soul or collective consciousness. And there is where everything develops. So, what matters for us here, the characters in the play are nothing but the projection the consciousness sees. Therefore, when we want something, that something already exists in front of the mirror. What happens is that we may want it and we may get it later. We'll see that later on. But we are in the back of the mirror, behind the mirror. So, why are we there? Because we question ourselves. We want to know. If we didn't ask ourselves any questions, this subconscious mind, this collective mind or soul, would not have been able to identify with itself. Never. It would have not been a reality. It would have continued to move. But from the moment that we are describing the play, living the play as if it were real, that's what makes the play act. And that feeds the soul, the collective consciousness, that identity, that it's unbalanced and it's looking for some balance. It's a balance between the consciousness in action wanting to keep moving or stop to look at itself in the mirror. What does this mean? That the play, and this is logical, you will understand that it's logical, the play has developed because we describe it, because we do describe it. And then we ask ourselves. And by asking ourselves, we come up with the answer, and that creates the play. Many times, the answers of the questions we ask come to us later on in time, but they're there. Any action that we take through any intention or ritual, and rituals happen because we have wishes. That's a human characteristic. So any action we take, the answer is always given to us by the subconscious mind, but it's not given to us by perception. I hope this is now more or less clear. More or less. This is important for everything. And this is here where the finder, the person that wants to find, starts to find. And it starts sounding like familiar, like this resounds with me. Now, those people who want to continue to experience in the play do not want to hear what I'm saying because they want to continue to be important in the play. And I'm saying that we are behind the mirror. We are behind the play. So now let's place ourselves below this dotted line. That line is the area of the quantum field. The quantum field would be the space, the area, the stage that gives us everything, where the play is taking place. If we want something, the quantum field will give it to us. If we don't want anything, we don't get anything. Because the quantum field in this space, everything is a possibility there in the field. Since there's no time, because time is a characteristic of our play, of our history here, of our manifestation, and so is space. But outside of here, there's no time or space. So we can play with all the possibilities. Everything is there. And everything you ask for, everything you want, will be given to you. Any answer will be given to you through the mirror. The mirror is like a safe conduct through the soul, through the collective mind. So now we're going to talk about something interesting now. Because for me, the subconscious mind or the soul is an energy form. So what is an energy form? We talk about programming, and let's say that the quantum field is energy. Energy that can be measured within the quantum field. Otherwise, or in a different way, with frequencies that are different from the physical universe. The quantum field is within the physical universe. So science does work here. So we're starting to talk about frequencies and math within the field. Since in the quantum field, the energy in the quantum field is different from the energy in the room, and the energy in the room where we are common people, ordinary people, and my idea is that we, the average person can understand that the energy in the play is very dense. It's heavy because it's being developed within time, past, present, future. And as it develops in time, we are the result of what happened yesterday, or both individually or collectively. So the energy here in the room is dense. Everything goes slowly. Let's say that in the field, there is another type of energy. And all the possibilities are there. Why? Because everything we want at the collective level will be given to us. Many times, the field gives it to us centuries later, not knowing that those that are here now and we want to see it now, we won't be alive. Although we will be alive, because death, physical death, develops or happens also here. It's a death within the play, within the subconscious mind. It's not going back to the consciousness. Okay. There are few possibilities that we go back to consciousness according to our the consciousness we are in now. We'll see that also. Because this is encouraging and can give us many answers. Therefore, physical death, since there is no time, it doesn't happen. I mean, we can reincarnate, we can go back and peek through the curtain of the theater play and see how things evolve, things that we wanted to see. After things we wanted to see, we may be able to see them after our physical death. This is incarnation, or the consciousness without being focused on the physical, without being incarnated in a body. Well, let's go back now. What is the soul? The soul is consciousness. I know that there are many different words to describe the soul, the ego, the being in different spiritual schools. But the consciousness, the soul, the subconscious mind is one being, one entity. Since it is one being, it's one energy form. And what is an energy form? The energy form is a mix of a belief and an emotion. So, what is a belief? A belief is when I stop and I look at myself in the mirror, which is what the soul and the collective mind has done, the being is there, believes it. If you see something in the mirror, you see yourself, you believe it. It's the play already. The play is there. So from here, from the dotted line below, everything is beliefs, concepts. In order to have a belief, you have to have a concept. The concept is the table, and the belief is what I believe about the table. If there is no table, there is no belief about a table. So you need the concept. So I cannot talk about soul and the subconscious mind. I couldn't have beliefs if the title of the play didn't exist. The room. The room is the scene, the scenery of the play. And the soul would be the whole play that keeps happening, that goes on, picks up different ingredients from the field as it goes along, and keeps a register of all the things that have supposedly happened in the play until now. So when the energy is manifested here in the soul, when it's looking at itself in the mirror, that energy is not an energy as it was in the field for change of reality. It's an emotion. Emotion is movement, is action. So each time we talk about emotion, I'm talking about energy, force. So let's not mix up emotion with feelings. Fear, love, guilt, all those feelings. The emotion is everything. Emotion is a tree, is a thought, is a feeling too. Emotion is a doubt, because our theater play is emotional. The belief cannot be anything without the energy of the emotion to give it force, to make it work. So imagine a balloon. A balloon without air doesn't exist. It's not a balloon. We can define it any other way, by the material it's made of. But when you put the air in it, it's a balloon. It can be big, small, red or green. That would be the belief, not the concept. We'll see what a concept is later. The concept is the matrix of the belief that gives place to other beliefs. The concept would be, for instance, the existence of God. It's a statement, and that is the concept of God. The belief is all we talk about when we talk about God. So, the atheist, for instance, hasn't seen the concept. The religious person hasn't seen the concept. The agnostic hasn't seen the concept. All that comes from saying God, the existence of God, are beliefs. Since we don't see the matrix concept, we go around and around, and that's what makes the play go on. We go from one belief to another. How do we do that? With that feeling or sensation that we're evolving, but we're not evolving. It's all the same because we have missed the concept. We don't see the concept. Now you probably understand what I said in the first video about the non-concept. We have to remove this. Remove the idea of the existence of God. So these beliefs don't exist, cannot exist. It's like you burst the balloon. This has a lot to do with our life, with our personal life. Because in the big energy form, that is the soul, we have the energy and the belief. What is the emotion? It's the energy that the consciousness has put there to come here. And the belief is to believe what you see in the mirror. To believe that identity is to be, to exist, to be. That's the first belief. Since this being knows that it has an identity. Then this emotion, remember that emotion is an energy, when we bring it here, when the soul looks at itself in the mirror, contemplates itself in the mirror, this energy becomes an emotion. Let's say a distorted emotion. I don't like the word distorted, but I cannot find a better word right now. Let's say that this is not a free energy without pros and cons. It's not an energy that moves around in the field. Once we put or fit the energy in an identity and looks at its reflection in the mirror, then you create an answer. You create, the energy gets an opinion. So this energy is collapsed. You're collapsing the energy when you put it here in a being. That's why it's more dense. It's not the same as the energy that is, although measurable, but it's free in the field, than the energy we have here. And we experience it as fear. There's a lot to talk about here, the concept of fear. But it's not exactly fear. It's not as basic as just when we say fear. It's subtle. It's a subtle fear because it creates love. The supposedly, what we call love, earthly love. Let's remember that in the origin there was a vital force. Everything was together. It was in one direction. It was called love. I don't mind using one word or another. Sometimes I don't like to use the word love because it has so many connotations. It's been so overly used in so many situations. But that's the best word I can use now. This love in the source has nothing to do with the earthly love. The earthly love comes from fear because the energy, the emotion that created us and sustains us is fear. There's something intuitive in this, but maybe with time you can perceive this and see that it's true. Energy is fear. Emotion is fear. A subtle fear. Okay? Well, this first energy form is the belief to be something, the identity plus the emotion, that is fear. If you burst the balloon, it disappears. All of it goes away. Now you might understand, you might suspect why people say that love is the answer to everything. That happens when you burst the balloon. You burst the balloon and the emotion of fear goes away. You free that energy, and what you have to do is get rid of all the balloons we have. But what we shouldn't do is get rid of one and get another. I leave one method, which is a balloon, and I replace it with another method, which is another balloon. I get rid of a belief and replace it with another. No, you have to remove the concept in the origin, the concept, the identity. So you can look at yourself in the mirror and you don't identify yourself with the soul, with the other part of the mirror. When you cannot do it, that's when you're ready to perceive, because the soul keeps all the knowledge. The soul is the identity, is what is making you be here. The soul positions itself in the mirror so you can see it. When you don't look at yourself in the mirror, you don't see anything there. That's when you're ready to perceive. So you ask the questions at the mirror. The mirror answers back. So that's why I say this is for finders, people that want to find.